Okay, here we are, Handball Man Part 2. Where we left was a basic little cliffhanger. Um, I'm basically terrified. My father's about to play this guy in handball. He's scaring me. He looked at my father, made a mean face, and then my father leaves, and he leaves. Now, I'm with his friend, so I'm okay. But he leaves, and then all of a sudden, what happens is some guy comes back in with boots on, the heavy fireman raincoat, the helmet, visor down, carrying an axe, and I'm like, I thought he was like, who the heck is this guy? This guy is like, and it's in a confined space, walking towards me, and then he walks into the fronton to play um, black ball handball, and I'm like terrified. And this guy just puts and starts playing, just warming up a little bit, and then it starts. So I'm like, where's my father? I don't know what's going on. This guy looks like a fireman who's in there. I just saw them a couple of weeks ago in the firehouse. The guy comes out in full uniform, full gear like that. So I'm like, okay, who's this guy? And it begins. The first 4 points, the fireman wins, and it's 4-0. So all of my father's friends are going nuts because they see that this guy can play with George the Animal Steel. George the Animal Steel is a good player. And then it's 4-2. And all of a sudden, my father's friends are like screaming, take it off, stop playing, ba ba boom. And then it's my father's handball man, superhero. Then the beating begins. Now, here's the thing, okay? I know the way it went now in my mind, but I was 4.5 years old. I was terrified of this person that walked back in. Where's my father? Because I'm still waiting for my father until the guy takes off his stuff. He thought it was funny to give, because this guy thought he was intimidating my father. So my father thought he'll just give it back, you know, Jack style. And, he upset George the Animal Steel. And then George the Animal Steel was bigger and definitely stronger than my father. And I'm scared. And oh, I even forgot about the bet. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The best part of the story is the bet. Everybody had bets down. I had $3, and these guys weren't paying attention to me. And the older guy, who was either a captain or a chief, who was watching his friend George the Animal Steel play against my father, he goes, "Who are you?" I go, uh, "He's my father. He's my dad." He goes, "I'll take your bet." So I give him my $3. He takes my bet. Now I'm set. This is all before, that fireman comes on. Okay, now back to the story. Now my father has, you know, he's obviously he's thin compared to George the Animal Steel, but he's so much faster. And I swear to you, it looked like one guy was standing still and one guy was going side to side. But say if it was 21 points, he only won like 21-15. George the Animal Steel came back. He could play. And then the second game was total wipeout, like 21-10. And it could have been a lot worse because I saw my dad slow up, meaning, he could have sped up the serves, stuff like that. See, I'm analyzing that now, but at 4.5 years old, I don't know but I'm watching everything that's going on, and it's being recorded in my sick mind. So I remember everything that went on, but I'm not interpreting it as a 4-year old like I am now, because he gave him a beating. And then the superhero, Handball Man, was born. I would never see my father play handball again. That was it. But to me, that was like the greatest fight in the world, Frazier Ali. That's it. I just witnessed the greatest thing. and I won. That look, I've had weekends where I made plenty of money, not plenty. I've been gambling 51 years. I had a couple of 50 grand weekends. I gave it back, double that. I have no wins, but I had some nice hits. The biggest hit I made on the horses was 26 grand. That's horrendous. For 51 years, I should have had a couple of at least 100 grand hits. I've lost for 250,000 a couple of times. None of that. This $3 was the greatest hit I ever made in my life and will ever be. No matter what happens, if I hit the lotto tomorrow, that money there, Handball Man, was the greatest bet I have ever made and will ever make in my whole lifetime. Story gets, well, that's the best of it. But we go to the bar because that's what people do, or at least the firemen did in 1966. We all went to the bar, and like I didn't get paid yet either. I'm like, I beat him and whatever. But that guy was big and strong, that chief or that captain, and he was George the Animal Steele's friend. And I forgot to say how it ended. After what happened, it was great. They shook hands. I thought George the Animal Steel was going to eat my father alive. I thought he was going to beat him to death. I was scared. But anyway, make a long story short, they shook. Everybody went to the bar. They were saying you're a good player and this. All my father said, just one thing. He didn't really talk. He was just hanging out, having cocktails, but not cocktails, just beer. And he said one thing to the guy, just one thing. And he said, if you were like 10 or 12 or 15 years younger, I think you get me. I think you would have got me. And, they were friends after that. I never saw George the Animal Steel again. And I would ask my father only once about that crazy matchup. And all he said was, I just side to sided him. I had him in age. That's all. He just wore him down. He said George the Animal Steel was a pretty good player, you know? So there's Handball Man. Oh, no. And also the celebration now. So fireman celebration was simple because I got to go to so many of these things. Starting at 4.5 years old, I was in the bar already. It was perfect. It's like, wow, what a great life. All the firemen were so happy, okay? Half of them, and they were piling up all the change in front of me because there was a peanut machine in the back of the bar. So give him all the soda he wants and all the peanuts and this and that. And then the chief taps me on the shoulder and he hands me a Tensky. And I'm like going out of my mind. He goes, "This is for you." I go, "Thank you. Thank you." The greatest hit I will ever hit in my life, that $10. The best. Handball Man, Part 2.